Yes and no. Japan is fucking Japanese high tech. Yo ho ho, welcome to episode 126 of the podcast and the YouTube, and that's about it. Again, I talk about in the episode, we're doing a daytime episode, so hopefully I can get the lighting in here looking a bit better than it looks on camera. My apologies for that if you're watching on YouTube, but besides that, we have a really good episode. Mainly just the list that we were talking about before. I pick up on that. That pretty much takes up like the whole podcast, but it was some really good points, really good questions. I didn't even get through the whole thing, but it was some good shit in there, plus another article that tied into what we were talking about originally, of course, from Rod. And yeah, that's pretty much the episode. But not too long, not too much, not too little. Just right, just a little splitoosh, just right for you. So definitely enjoy that, and we'll pick it up. Okay, I just completely fucked that up. Okay, whatever. Anyway, just enjoy. Don't save her. She don't wanna be saved. Don't save her. She don't wanna be saved. Yo ho 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 ho. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 126 of the podcast. Hopefully, I got the camera position right. Hopefully, I'm not like zooming in on your brain. You can see it's daytime in my background. Hopefully, the video is not too low. Please excuse me while I adjust some stuff. Hopefully the video is not too low for you guys watching on YouTube. I did a little video test and it didn't really look right, so I'm gonna try and do some Steven Spielberg post-production on it, and hopefully you can see my face a little bit better than what it looked like before, but there ain't really shit I can do about it now. My wife is in another room I record at doing some work, so you're stuck with this if it kind of sucks. Sorry about that. I'll try and do better next episode. If you're listening to this when it comes out, it's a bit later than I recorded, a bit later than I normally do, a few days later. I just had some other stuff to do work-wise and administrative stuff and whatnot over the weekend. I was a little bit out of it, so I was like, not out of it, not super tired, but I just needed a little time to decompress after a busy weekend, since I work on the weekends pretty much now in Japan. For me, my job, what I do, weekends are pretty much the busy time for me. So I was ripping and running all weekend, so I was like, all right, let me just take a second to chill for a little bit, get a little stuff done. And last night I just didn't really do all that much because I knew I had some time today to record, but the lighting is all fucked up here. So my dog is on my left. I'm wondering how long it is before he gets annoyed with me talking, and then he just runs off somewhere and does something else. But yeah, let's just get into everything. That's pretty much all that's going on here. I do have some good news. Hopefully I'll be able to record it this coming week, but I got an invitation to do another podcast about Japan from a guy who does a podcast. Hit me up and was like, yo, I like what you're doing. You deep in these streets, you're doing it big out here, so let's collaborate, what I'm saying, do a best of both worlds kind of thing. You know what I'm talking about. So, but now, so I'm gonna, it looks like I'm gonna be recording an episode for another podcast. I'll probably post it if we get it done this coming Saturday. Whenever it goes up, I'll let you know. I'll post it up. I won't be cussing all crazy like I normally do on here, but I'm gonna give it to you raw as much as I can. I guess he found me because of my episode on the collapse of Nova, because apparently he did an episode on that sometime in the past. So he just reached out to me, which is great. I really appreciate it. It's cool. He has listeners. I have listeners. So I don't know how many listeners he has. I got like double-digit listeners, and so which makes me happy, you guys. I'm happy. This is kind of like a boutique, hidden secret kind of podcast, or at least that's how I like to think of it. It just might not be a popular podcast at all. But no, Rod always shows love. I appreciate that. Hopefully, Sub Negro, hope you're still out there studying Japanese, listening and everything like that. And everyone else, longtime listeners, I appreciate it. I'm going to keep rocking for you guys. This week, though, I'm not going to be that long in here because like I told you before, I might record some other content with my wife, so I'm not going to be too long before I head off to work. So not too long in the tooth on this episode. So let's just get straight to it. See what happens. Last time, I got a couple of things. So last time, we were talking about the Quora. I fucking don't know how to say this fucking website. Quora, whatever. Okay. But anyway, yeah, we're talking about that, the questions about Japan from that. And so it's kind of, I forgot where I stopped actually. How can you put so we talked about soy sauce. I remember that. Japanese people. Okay, whatever. I'll just do from the second one. Japanese people actually. The second point, again, the link is in the description wherever you're reading this. I'll just post it again so that you guys can read it on your own. Again, I'm not going to read through what the person wrote. I'm just going to give you my take on it. They're really good questions, so I'm just going to give you my take on it. I encourage you to go back and read his stuff. I ain't doing that shit. I might skim once or twice if I really don't have too much of an opinion here or there, but I'm not going to do it. So let's just do it. So the second question was, Japanese people actually talk like they do in anime. And I would say in anime, there's a bunch of yelling. That's what I would say. Like there's a lot of yelling in anime. And I would say no. For me, the person says yes and no. I translate. She's for a living. I would bark violently if I caught myself talking like these people do in real life. Yeah, they just don't, right? Like, I don't know if I told you. I don't know if I've ever told this story. Hold on one second. Let me adjust this. I don't know if I told this story on here. I think I did a long time ago, but I'll just tell it again anyway. One time when I was first studying Japanese, this is why you don't fucking copy the shit that you hear on an anime show. Unless it's like a show about everyday life with normal people, don't copy the shit that you hear, right? Because as an English teacher, I tell people, you speak like the language you learn from, So if you want, as for a second language, right? So I tell students, if you want to speak like a fucking gangster, watch gangster movies. If you want to speak like a business person, watch TV shows and shit about business people, and the type of conversations that they have. You won't be 100% one for one, but you'll pick up some of their, mannerisms and the phrases that they say, their ways of speaking, their inflection, stuff like that. You'll just pick that up naturally. And, like I said, I learned Japanese pretty much in a very not traditional, but like in language school. I wasn't like hanging at the bar with motherfuckers, like getting drunk, yelling at each other. And if you think about it, like a lot of shows, let's take Dragon Ball Z, for example, Vegeta and Goku, they're just yelling at each other, like trying to kill each other. Pretty much any anime that you got, that's pretty much what's happening. People are trying to kill each other, right? Unless you're watching... Yeah, pretty much. Like almost any anime you're gonna watch, is someone trying to kill somebody. And they're, so the way that they talk is very different. Now, if you're watching like a romance TV show or a reality show, you're gonna get different types of language. And I remember one time I was at a wedding and when I just started studying Japanese, maybe 6 months, a year into Japanese. And, basically I was at a table with my wife at the time. She was my girlfriend at the time. And a dude I didn't know. And we were talking, and we were kind of introducing ourselves. And I reach over to him, I lean over to him, I'm like, "Omae no namae wa nan desu ka?" Now, omae, if you don't know, you'll probably hear it in anime and stuff like that a lot. And it might sound cool, but it's a really rude way of talking to someone, right? Now, there's certain cultural nuances of it. It basically, not rude, but it's more of a friend. Yeah, it is rude, okay, because you're at a higher position from the person. A person at a higher position talks to the other person like omae, kind of like, you kind of thing, but I mean, friends do it, like really guys, casual guys do it, or someone who's angry will do it, but you won't do it like if you're in a civil conversation with someone. You just won't talk like that. Like, I don't use that word at all. Like, just, and even my son, when he gets a little bit older, I won't let him talk like that in the house. I've heard and I see the young kids do that, because again, the rules of raising children is kind of different here, but just, I'm black. I'm like, you gonna speak with respect in this motherfucking house. Like, that's how I raise him. So it's kind of like sometimes a little bit of a culture clash, because sometimes I hear shit that he says in Japanese and it's kind of grating for me, because like, I don't talk like that. I wasn't raised to talk like that even in Japanese. And so I was kind of explaining to my wife, like, I need you to be the referee on the Japanese side, because yeah, we teach him to speak with respect, but some shit that he says, automatically my radar goes off, like, yo, don't talk like that, but I don't really, again, I'm not a native Japanese speaker, so I don't know the cultural nuances of the word and the intention, so I have to kind of lay back. But in English, I'm like, you need to ask politely. You need to say please. You need to say thank you. Like, what do like, I'm kind of like that, give that boy some home training. But yeah. So anyway, I asked this guy, like, omae no namae wa nan desu ka? And, I'm thinking, like, I'm being so polite because I knew mae is forward. So, and I learned that o is like the honorable form of something. So I was just guessing, like, oh, mae is kind of like the polite way to say you. So, but it's the equivalent of me in like a wedding ceremony being like, hey, motherfucker, what your name is? Pretty much. My wife just, like, her eyes got big as hell. I was like, yo, what are you doing? I was just like, what? I was like, and I was trying to explain to him, like, he's like, no, that's rude. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I had to apologize, but, so, the more natural way is just, I think I talked about it before, just cutting you completely. And, onamae wa nan desu ka? That's it. Not anata no namae wa, grammatically how you would translate it, but just onamae wa nan desu ka, for example, or onamae wa is okay as well. And that's about it. I'm not going to get into Japanese. Please don't take Japanese. This is not turning into the Japanese study podcast with Akil, because I told you my grammar is fucking shit right now. Okay. Okay. So take that with a grain of salt. Take that shit to your Japanese teacher. So yeah, I would say, again, the majority of anime, just don't trust it. Don't copy it. Again, like, if I wanted to understand that way of speaking, I sometimes do dabble in those type of shows, those type of animes. But generally speaking, cheesy fucking family dramas or reality shows are probably going to be your best bet to help you speak Japanese better, because that's where you're going to get everyday language, two coworkers talking to each other, two friends talking to each other, two classmates talking to each other, shit like that. Again, Chibi Maruko-chan was for me, I think, that you won't hear people really using that type of language. Okay, next one. Is Japan extremely sexist? And the person says yes and no. And I was actually, you've heard me kind of talk about this before, and I think in a few episodes ago about we were talking about gokons and matchmaking parties and stuff like that. I think that it is, but not in the ways that you think it is. On the surface, it's not sexist in like an openly sexist way. I think a lot of sexism happens, and also racism as well, happens kind of behind the scenes. It's kind of clouded, kind of indirect. There is, like, you've heard me talk about a wall of pillows for foreign people. There's also definitely a wall of pillows for Japanese women. And I was actually having this conversation with a student like yesterday, I think, because because she was asking me about that, like the gender gap between men and women. And what I said to her is, my take on it is, in the West, there is a glass ceiling for women, but, once a woman can kind of break the glass ceiling, she has equal status as men, right? Like, if you have a woman, for example, in general, right? If you have a woman in the boardroom, she's earned her way, worked. She probably had to work, much harder than a guy to get there. But once she's there, she's kind of on equal footing as all the other men in the boardroom, right? In Japan, no. Like, actually, if a woman makes her way into that type of situation, she actually has kind of like a courtesy seat there, in my opinion. Like, there are some exceptions with women who are, extremely powerful enough to break through that culture, but generally speaking, it's still very much a boys' club here. Like, for me, it feels kind of like Japan today feels kind of like America 40 years ago. Okay, I wasn't born yet, but my impression of what America was like in the late 70s, early 80s, where again, working women were starting to appear in the workplace, divorce was starting to pop up, women independent of, their male counterpart, was kind of starting. And, the idea of a woman in the workplace in more positions of power, meaningful positions of power, was becoming more of the norm, but it wasn't fully accepted. You know what I mean? Like it was seen, it was heard of, but it wasn't like fully there yet. I think Japan maybe is going to take, similar to that, another like 10, maybe even 20 years to really, those fucking old farts kind of die off. Die off. And I think the next generation, like maybe my generation of people in their 30s and 40s now, will probably be more willing to like fully accept women in positions of power as company presidents, as general regional managers, and not, and they'll have a voice that holds weight in those type of positions. So I don't really see that here. Now I hear one or two anecdotal cases every now and then on the news, but generally speaking is not commonplace. Like I think a Japanese woman generally will feel extremely intimidated walking into a boardroom or a meeting room, surrounded by all men, even though she is of the same status as them. And for her to speak up in that situation, she would I feel like encounter that wall of pillows kind of phenomenon here. Which kind of sucks. It was really fucking sucks, but again, it's one of the things that holds the country back. So next, Japan is high tech. Yes and no. Gosh, yes and no. Japan is fucking Japanese high tech. Like, what I mean by that is like some things in Japan are extremely high tech, but some things they're completely behind the times. So like Japan, because it is an island, it has Galapagos syndrome. If you don't know what Galapagos syndrome is, it is something that was experienced in like smartphones or cell phones. Actually, cell phones is like the perfect example of Galapagos syndrome. The Galapagos Islands, where because it's an island, the wildlife there evolved in extreme ways that matched the environment of the Galapagos Islands perfectly, but was extremely unnecessary and was strange when compared to the evolution of animals in other parts of the world. It was extremely specialized, right, for the island, is what I'm trying to say. And Japan is like that. And that's what happened with, for example, if you want to understand the Japanese technology, think about cell phones and smartphones. And I'll give you a little history lesson on that right now. So, like I said, when I came to Japan, the cell phones in Japan were futuristic, robot transforming. I was like, yeah, look at this shit. Pew, 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 pew. Sliding here, turned into a TV there. It was fucking transforming. It was amazing. Like, it was like a million different cell phones doing a million different things. It was fucking tight. Like, when I went back to America, I flexing in the mall with my Japanese joint, like, pew, 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 pew. Let me take a video. Pew, pew, pew. Like, everyone was like, oh, damn. Like, everyone was like, yo, where you get that? I'm like, that's that Tokyo, like, I was the man every time I went back to America until about 2010, right? Until about 2010 when everybody got fucking smartphones. Everyone got iPhones and Androids, and then my phone was just some bullshit. But I wanted an iPhone, but iPhones were not popular in Japan yet because everyone was addicted to their fucking cell phones. And I think I told you, the iPhone 4 was like the breakthrough moment for Apple in Japan. Like, you have no idea before and after the iPhone 4. It was like a watershed moment. No one really gave a fuck about Apple like that until like the iPhone 4 came, and it just like took over the streets, basically. It was like 50 Cent in 2003. Everyone's like, G-Unit? iPhone? Steve Jobs, throwing up gang signs. Okay, no. Okay, sorry. But what I mean is, everyone was like really, really, really into Apple projects. It just shifted the landscape of everything. So now people in their 20s and teens, all they know is Apple. But before then, Japanese products were what was heavy in the streets. And actually that continues to today where, in the smartphone market, in the PC market, for example, Japanese products are lagging behind because of they're so specialized, that they really just can't compete with the user experience and the overall quality of that Apple and the brand that Apple products have established. For me, all because of the iPhone 4. That was where they stamp their flag. And now Apple has pretty much complete control over the cell phone market here. I think they got almost 50% market share. They got the fucking providers wrapped around their pinky finger. Like, you go in there, it's like the selection is literally like 70% Apple products, and like way in the back they got a few other Japanese smartphones, but they just can't, and they're Androids, they just can't compete here. So it just kind of shows you technology gets kind of lopsided. Like, here you'll have some stuff that's completely overdeveloped, over refined. Like, I was watching some shit, okay, we'll talk about this for a little bit more. Like, I was watching some shit on the news a couple of nights ago about the Japanese bullet train. It's a great example. So there was like apparently a new model of bullet train, which actually I can see near my house. It passes by sometimes. It's really cool. My son fucking loves it when he's in the car. He's like, oh, it's a bullet train. It looks cool. Bullet train's fucking cool as shit, right? Even I like watching them. So the new model rolled out apparently a few days ago, and like, it's literally like, I think the difference is like the front end is literally like a few fucking inches, a few centimeters smoother or rounded to let the wind fly over it a different way. And, they're like, this is the best ride in the world and shit like that. And, like, they were talking about how they developed it, and they made like little, I think 1/50th models of it. And they went through like 50,000 1/50th models of this bullet train to change the nose by a couple of inches just to make the ride smoother. And that's kind of shit that happens in Japan, like, in some products in Japan. Like, I tell people, like my wife and stuff, we'll be watching and looking at some shit, and I'm like, wow, that's cool, that's amazing. I'm like, yeah, people should sell it in abroad. I'm like, no one abroad's gonna buy that. I'm like, it's the best blow dryer in the world, yeah, but nobody gives a fuck. Like, the one that you have is good enough. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna pay like 3 times the amount for something that blow dries my hair like 2 minutes faster than the affordable one. Like, people in the West don't think like that, but in Japan things get kind of overdeveloped in this kind of Galapagos style where it's like Japanese people are kind of mildly OCD, where get really obsessed with details of stuff, and it's a point where like, okay, you can stop now, but kind of, especially larger companies, they don't stop, and so they just keep going, and which is why some of them are in trouble now, like Panasonic and Toshiba, and a lot of the electronic makers, which really made their name on innovating in these type of ways. But now that the rest of the world has kind of caught up, and the overall standard level of quality has been high enough where it's acceptable for people all over the world. Like, you don't need the fucking super fast TV that's like 2% faster than everything else but costs twice as much more. Like, yeah, the features, Japanese people are obsessed with features pretty much. Like, the features are nice, but you don't really need it. You have enough. So that's what I mean. Technology is kind of funny like that here. It can be quite lopsided in very unnecessary ways. And a lot of the companies that are in trouble that you might hear about are, in my opinion, in trouble for that reason, right? So I'll leave that one there. Next, Japanese people are racist and xenophobic. Yes and no. I'll just read. People are certainly insensitive. That's the best word. But largely comes to race being much less taboo topic. Yeah, you've heard me talk about this before. Again, Japanese people, I would say, I wouldn't say racist. I say xenophobic. Japanese people are xenophobic, right? But they don't know they're xenophobic. They're not like, I hate foreign people, but they just basically, it's overall, again, it's either you're Japanese or you're not Japanese. And Japanese society, let me say, is so focused on what is quote unquote Japanese, the accepted image of Japanese, that anything outside of that is kind of shunned at some level, right? Consciously or unconsciously shunned, which means, you've heard me talk about situations where, if it's unexpected, a foreign person walks in the door, or, we don't serve non-Japanese people, or, difficulties with online forums, or things like that. It's not so much that Japanese people are like, fuck foreign people, but they only think in terms of Japan and Japanese society. Everything else kind of gets blurred or blocked out, lumped together and whatnot. It's stereotyped, and so it's kind of a lot of ignorance that goes on here, is what I would say. And ignorance is bliss if you're Japanese. But at the same time, like, you kind of, Japan's in a pinch, right? A pickle. Japan's in a pickle. I just wanted to say that word because the systemic social issues that are bubbling up here. Japan needs to diversify. Japan needs to globalize, and is really going through a lot of growing pains. I feel it, and I'm, like I said, I got my popcorn ready. I'm interested. I'm just watching the show because, I'm in the fucking passenger seat on this shit. So, like, I can't force these people to fucking, really understand and accept different issues and things like that. Like, so, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like, when I start seeing Japanese people, like random Japanese people taking up for foreign people, then I'll be happy. I won't really talk so much about the issues Japan has with Korea and China, because that's just way deeper than I can go. But those issues are very real, very there, very historical, and very complicated. So I'm not even going to touch that, but that's a whole nother can of tomatoes. But I would say Japan is very Japan centric. So that kind of leads to some racist, possibly xenophobic tendencies that for me are mainly out of ignorance, is what I would say. Japan is religious, or Japan is not religious at all. I would say that, like, yeah, 60+% of Japanese people, I'll read some of this, identify as Shinto, which is common. But again, I would say people choose a religion based on tradition. It's not people are so much religious, but they are really traditional. And because there are these ceremonies and traditions that people have, they follow them, and that's it. But I wouldn't say that they're so much ingrained into their belief system the way, for example, Christianity or Islam or things, or even Buddhism for some people is. Let me say that, right? Like, I'm not saying, of course, there are Buddhists here in Japan, there are Christians here in Japan as well, but for the majority of people, their religious faith is not one of the main motivating factors in their everyday life. And it's not even something that they even consider or think about pretty much in their everyday life. When it comes, but on the flip side of that, the traditions that center around those religions are very central to their everyday life. So it's kind of funny, like, a family that doesn't even think about religion at all will definitely go travel across the country for Obon. Will definitely, fly to the other end of Japan to pray at the shrine on, a special holiday where you're supposed to go do that. Like that, those kind of things. It's kind of funny to me, like that, but you got to respect people's grind and willing, in the fabric of the culture, that even people who don't give a fuck about religion will center their lives and their movements around religious ceremonies and acts. It's kind of interesting, like that. It's a conundrum. Is that a conundrum? No, it's not a conundrum. It's just some big word. It's interesting. I'll just say that. All right, let me see how much time we got. This is actually a good series. Okay, I'm gonna cut this one short. Let me just because again, I told you I gotta go do some shit with my wife. So Japanese. Okay, no, I gotta do two more of these because these are actually really good ones. Oh shit, these are actually really good ones. I'm gonna do these last two, and then I'm gonna get out of here. Japanese people are miserable. And this guy's answering yes and no to everything. It's true because it's true. And I would say yes and no. Like, I've met some Japanese people who I've been blessed enough, especially in these past few years, to meet some Japanese people who are living life on their terms, completely free, completely doing whatever they want to do. And they operate, for me, those are the exception, not the rule. They operate on a completely different plane than everyday Japanese society. And I'm really blessed to meet those people and have some of them as my mentors because it kind of taught me something about the levels. You hear Japan has levels. And it really taught me something about the levels of Japanese society. And those levels of Japanese society, you don't really get to see. You don't really get access to so much. They're kind of behind closed doors. Those people aren't really out in the open so much. Like in the West, you kind of see money. You see money more, on TV and things like that. You see those people out and about. You want to be like them. But in Japanese society, success and money is not really something that is shined upon because there's a majority of people who are kind of, I hate to say, worker ants, who are worker bees, and their job is to kind of grind away, for however long, for, 30, 40, 50 years, 30, 40 years, and then retire, get their pension, and then maybe go to Hawaii. Like, that's kind of what they do, whether they're happy or not. And that's kind of the social contract for several people. They work until at least 8, 9 o'clock, from 9 to 9, maybe 9 to 12 sometimes, go get drunk with your colleagues. And on the weekends, like maybe you spend some time with your family. You pay your mortgage. You've got your kids, and they go to school. They're studying all the time. They're working, busting their ass, working hard as you are, so that they can get into a good college, get into a good company, and repeat the fucking cycle. Like that seems to be like the social contract. What I see, the rat race of Japan, quote unquote. That's the rat race of Japan, and and those people generally, for me, are not the happiest people, even if they are pleasant people. Like when I dig deep into it, they don't strike me as happy people. They might be happy with they might be satisfied with what they have, but I don't know if they're actually happy. I have met some who are really happy and who are really enjoying their lives and enjoying what they're doing, but I've also met a large amount who are not. But they think this is life and this is the way it is and this is what I gotta do, and I gotta commute on a crowded train, twice a day, for the next 30 years. And that's what they do, and have a sexless marriage, and like I don't fucking know. Like that's like, to me, the most depressing shit in the world. Like so like I don't know, but I have met a significant amount of people like that. But I've also met people who are the complete opposite, who are wildly successful, on different levels, do what they want to do, live their life on their terms, and really, really enjoy their lives. And again, those are the exceptions to the rule. So I'm happy that I was exposed to that other side of it, because it inspired me to be able to go after what I want and realize, like, okay, I don't have to, Japan is not only this, and I think that's a really, really, really important thing to understand about Japan. Because if you don't, you can kind of think like, if you're on the outskirts of society already and you're trying to fit yourself into something that you really don't want, it fucking sucks. Like, and that's what I was trying to do in the past, and it really, really tore me apart. Until I was like, fuck it. And then I met these other people. I'm like, awesome, cool. I don't have to do that shit. I could just pursue this, and great. So that's what I would say. Like, there are some really miserable people, and there are some really happy people here. But Japan's, you can't see it on the surface. I would say you can't judge based on appearances, and the people you see on TV, even if people with money, are really kind of looked down upon and kind of mocked on Japanese TV, for example. It's a really interesting dynamic. Last one, Japan's economy is screwed. Yes, it's fucking screwed. Okay, end of story. No, yeah, I think Japan's economy is screwed, but I don't know when that D-Day will come with the corona situation. Like I said, I got my popcorn ready. There's a lot of macroeconomic factors at play. I'm not, if you know, my wife, sometimes we were talking about stuff and she was asking me like, well, when do you think this is going to happen? I'm like, if I knew, I'd be a fucking rich motherfucker right now because I'd be playing the market and playing the game. I'm not predicting like, where the wave is going. I'm just trying to ride it. I'm just trying to do my best to ride it so that I can get where I need to go, and hopefully we can land in a safe place. I'm not checking the weather report or the water temperature and all that. I'm just trying to do what I need to do to get us where we need to be. So whether you're in Japan or not, I would say don't get paralyzed by thinking about the Japanese economy. Just or wherever you are, just keep going, riding your wave, of course, looking out for what's going on macroeconomically. There's a bunch of shit in play right now. And yeah. And you'll be all right. That's what I like to think. That's what I believe. And so, I'm not really, and again, I'm very bullish on the Japanese economy as well. Like I really do believe like, Japanese people, hold on, my dog wants to go in this little doggy house thing. Okay, here you go, doggy. There you go. So yeah, I am very bullish on the Japanese people just because of the character traits of Japanese people in general, the country, the things like that. So, but I do think you heard me say it's going to go through a rough patch somewhere down the line. And I'm going to be here with my popcorn watching everything go down. So okay, all right. Let me stop. Let me get out of here on that one. There's a few more of these. I wanted to get into some other shit, which I'm going. Oh no. Okay, I gotta do one. Fuck. Okay, this episode's gonna be like damn near an hour. All right. Yeah. Oh no, it's only 35 minutes in. So okay. What I wanted to do is I'm gonna stop here. I'm probably gonna do a little bit more of this next episode, but there was one thing Rod sent that I kind of want to talk about. And it kind of ties in with the previous question about are Japanese people miserable? And it's an article, a short video, which made me laugh. The Consul General of Japan in New York plays and slays Jimi Hendrix style Star Spangled Banner. And this guy, for me, is a really clear example of the freedom that Japanese people experience when they are abroad, right? Because they're not confined by the social pressures of Japan. And some people just take that shit with you. I mean, he's got a fucking bow tie on. Yeah, oh yeah, he's living life over here to the fullest. Like, he's just enjoying the freedom and individuality of living in America. He could not do that in Japan at all. At all. He would be completely mocked and laughed at. I'm pretty sure he's being snickered to a bit, but because he might even got that post because he's a bit eccentric, and because he's the top guy for the Japanese consul in New York, he can definitely do whatever the fuck he wants. He can, whatever the rock music he was into in Japan, he can fully express himself unabashedly in the United States. But damn sure he will not be doing that when he moves back to Japan. That's for damn sure. And those kind of things are really interesting, like those kind of dynamics, how you see, like, you go from 0 to 100, whether you're inside the country or outside. It gets really interesting. So check that one out. I was a little bit tickled by that. I could just kind of imagine how free, not because he's in America, but because he's outside of Japan, this guy is, and how much he enjoys it, and probably how much he never wants to go. I mean, I won't say never, but how much he really enjoys living in America. So check that out. It might be interesting for you. And I've met several eccentric Japanese people like this here in Japan who kind of like try to latch onto me and suck my independence from me. They're like, you're so free thinking, precious, like like Gollum, like I'm serious. I've definitely met some people that are kind of like that, who just, it eats them up being inside, and feeling trapped inside Japanese society. And those are the people that you meet who are extremely, extremely happy and really want to be your friend just because you're foreign. They kind of fetishize you, I think, because, you're non-Japanese. And those are the people I really don't like so much. I'm not saying this guy, in particular, but I'm just saying here in Japan, like, there are different levels of it. The people who really, you can tell the only reason that they're talking to you and they really want to talk to you is because you're not Japanese and because they don't want to do with anything that's Japanese. Those are the people I'm kind of like, okay, all right, you need to fucking chill. Like, for me, the coolest people that I've met who are the coolest people have some experience abroad, have some maybe living, maybe visiting, exposure to foreign people, and they just don't give a fuck. Like, they see you as you. Like, you can tell the way they look at you, and the way they look at another Japanese person. There's no difference. Of course, they consider you. I'm not saying like they're colorblind or anything like that. They understand you're from a different country. They understand you're from a different culture, but they just don't give a fuck. And, they just see you as an individual, as a person. And they understand you have different language and different everything. Yeah, we might speak in Japanese, we might speak in English, but they don't give me these, they don't put me in a special category. And dealing with Japanese people, I'd say those are the people that you're gonna be, if you chill, cool motherfucker like me, those are the people that you're gonna want to seek out, and those are the relationships that, if you find them, will be the strongest and will be the most meaningful, in my humble opinion. So I'm gonna leave things right there, and I'll finish up this list and do some other shit next time. So all right, y'all, take it easy. I'll holler at you next time. Peace.